Hello, Sankofa passengers. I'm sure you've heard of syphilis, a chronic bacterial disease that is contracted mostly by infection during sexual intercourse, but also congenitally by infection of a developing fetus. But have you heard of what that vicious disease does to human beings, regardless of their race, if left untreated? Well, it causes blindness and deafness and heart disease and bone deformity and dental disfigurement and central nervous system deterioration and excruciating death in up to 58% of cases. Now, stop visualizing all the symptoms, the pain and suffering that come with them, and imagine that one day in history, a group of human beings decided to conduct a study that would monitor the natural progress of untreated syphilis. In other words, to sit and watch some lab rats suffer and die slowly. Well, I didn't mean rats as animals, I mean real people. I mean black men, women, and children. Guess what? This is not a fiction, it actually happened. And it was described as arguably the most infamous biomedical research study in the US history, and probably the most infamous non-therapeutic trial in human being in history. Welcome to Horror City.
African History Daily by my daddy. You may feel well and still have bad blood. Come and bring all your family. Come for special free treatments to cure bad blood.
This is what was written on the flyers that began to appear in the fall of 1932 around Macon County, Alabama. Those flyers distributed by the US Public Health Service, promising the poverty-stricken and barely literate resident, all colored people, special treatment for bad blood. Bad blood, a local term used to describe all type of general ailments they didn't understand, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. Hundreds of men were tricked into signing complex medical forms without any informed consent whatsoever, and they received no real benefit with the exception of free burial insurance, but they had to unknowingly sign forms agreeing to a specific type of autopsy before the coverage kicked in. This inhuman study initially included 600 black men, of which 399 had syphilis and 201 didn't have it. The researchers never obtained informed consent from the men and never told the one with syphilis that they were not being treated, but simply being observed until they died. And that didn't seem to shock anyone in the study team, who reasoned that they were not really harming those black people because they were unlikely to get medical treatment anyway, and also because they were so ignorant to reduce their behavior anyway due to their inherent and supposed excessive sex drive. As you can see, there was a racist side to this sinister enterprise, well represented by Taliaferro Clark, who envisioned it, and Thomas Parent Jr., who personally selected the ideal location for such study to be implemented. And then there were also a traitor side to it, with black demons such as Eugene Dable Jr., chief of the John Andrew Hospital at the Tuskegee Institute, Dr. Robert Morton, president of Tuskegee Institute, and Miss Eunice Rivers, the supervising nurse. They were all paid and rewarded to fool the poor uneducated black victims who trusted them because of the skin color. Although originally designed to last only 6 months, the study extended for over 40 years and saw the death of 128 subjects. But it was worse than that. 45 wives were infected, and then 19 infants were born with congenital syphilis. And believe it or not, it's actually even worse than that. This needs to be explained. When the study began in 1932, treatment for syphilis was not effective, often dangerous and even fatal. But penicillin had become available in the military during the Second World War, and induction centers ordered treatment for 250 of those sick Tuskegee victims who had been drafted. But the Public Health Service used its political influence to maliciously block their access to treatment. Moreover, when this antibiotic became widely available to all civilians in 1947, and everyone in the country with syphilis could be cured immediately, the Public Health Service managed again to prevent them from getting penicillin. And as late of 1969, Public Health Service got the prestigious American Medical Association support for this depraved experiment. If it hadn't been for Peter Buxton, a white 27-year-old epidemiologist and social worker hired by Public Health Service in 1965 to interview patients with sexually transmitted disease, no one would have ever known about this horror. He filed an internal complaint on ethical grounds, denied. He refiled the same in 1968, denied again. Then he leaked the story to Jean Heller, a white 23-year-old reporter at the Washington Star. Her article, a front-page story published in 1972, was so explosive that the New York Times republished it in the next day. As a result of a widespread public outcry and outrage, the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male, which started in mid-October 1932, was halted, finally, in November 1972. The last male victim died in 2004. The last widow victim died in 2009. 12 adult offspring are still alive and receiving constant medical treatment. It seems to me like it was yesterday. My African cliché of the day is this.
The United States government did something that was wrong, deep, profound, morally wrong. It was an outrage to our commitment to integrity and equality for all our citizens. To the survivors, to the wives and family members, the children and the grandchildren, I say what you know. No power on earth can give you back the lives lost, the pain suffered, the years of internal torment and anguish. What was done cannot be undone, but we can end the silence. We can stop turning our heads away. We can look at you in the eye and finally say, on behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry.
This is an official apology pronounced by President Bill Clinton on May 16, 1997, to the 8 remaining survivors. Apologies issued after the 10 million settlement in 1973, which is worth about 15 million in 2020 US dollars. Will that be ever enough? Not nearly enough. How much are blindness, heart disease, central nervous system deterioration, excruciating death, and hellish racism worth? I'm not sure. Maybe a full health, education, housing, business startup, and land reparation package for all black folks in America. But then I'm still not sure. But what I'm sure about is that if we don't want apologies and cash, then we should manage not to let anything like this happen. Especially in these days, troubled by a disease that is blocking the Western economies and lifestyles. We shall all stand up and oppose any unclear, unexplained, unjustified trials and studies that may seem easier to conduct in Africa. And we shall not count on African leaders to protect us, because as nicely put by Albert Einstein, if you have a problem and you count on politicians to solve it for you, then in reality you have two problems. Stay warm in the Sankofa and see you soon.